Hey guys, this is my video review for the SOG Vulcan Mini. I had my eyes on the Vulcan for a while. It was going to be my first SOG pocket knife, and I opted for the Mini because I wear a pocket knife every day in the pocket, and I looked at the specs and some other videos on the full-sized Vulcan, and it is about a 3.5-inch blade, and it's at 5 ounces. It just seemed a little big to me. And it ended up, yes, that the Mini was the right size when I got it. It fits really nicely in my hand. I don't have large enough hands, I think, for the larger size, and this, uh, when it's folded, fits really nicely in the pocket without being too huge, and I do think that the blade is more than big enough at 3 inches here for most everyday tasks that I've ever encountered. Cutting open packages, boxes, cord, fabric. It's been good for all that. So let's go over a couple of the specs quick. Overall length is 7.35 inches. The blade length of the Mini is 3 inches, and the whole knife comes in at about 3.4 ounces. It does feature an arc lock, which is very strong. There's no wobble in it when I go up and forth, back and forth. A couple of the other Kershaw knives I had did do that. Not a huge deal, but if it was ever an issue where you were trying to work something open or whatever, you can rest assured that you're not going to break the knife, and there's not a lot of play in that. It's a good safety feature. The arc lock also does a great job of locking the knife open so that you're not worried as you're working that it's going to close on your fingers. That's not a huge concern, but in any folding knife versus a knife that stays open all the time, it is a little bit of a concern. I haven't had a lot of knives with tanto ends on them. What drew me to this knife, though, that it does that is, as you can see, the blade does have a bit of a belly there, which versus knives that tend to be very straight and then tanto, it's not very good for slicing with that design, whereas this, I've actually found when I'm cutting cords, cutting fabrics, it's very good at that, and then the tanto end is great for using it kind of as an X-Acto knife when you want to do precision cuts on paper and whatnot. It's very nice for that. Overall, I think this is one of my favorite blade designs of any of the pocket knives that I've had. And this easily, I think, in terms of ruggedness and things you can cut, keeps up with a much larger Kershaw Junkyard Dog 2 that I had a ways back. That's a significant knife, much larger than this one. Real nice for heavy jobs, but I feel like this can do a lot of the things that I ever used that for in a much smaller size. One of the things I didn't like about the Junkyard Dog is it's a very heavy knife to carry around all the time. As you can see internally, it does have dual-sided metallic liner, at least down to the first part, and then again at the end. It is G10 scales, nice material to hold when it gets wet. It feels good dry also. There is some jimping up here for the thumb, so that your thumb doesn't slide while you're working with it, which is nice. To close the knife, the wrist right here is the lock. You just pull this little pin back, and it collapses rather easily. It does have a flipper at the top, which with a little wrist action, you can flick right open. That tends to be a little intimidating to some people when you do that in public, so you can just kind of open it and grab it from there, or just, there we go, use your thumb to just open it like that. A little less threatening to some people when they stand around you. Overall, great knife. Two minor things I consider a con for this knife after using it for over 6 months now. One, the metal ridges in the back here, a little ramp, when you're holding it, it can be a little uncomfortable on the back finger. If you're gripping it hard, it does kind of dig in right here on the finger. Actually, you can see that it even left an imprint on the finger there from doing it. It's not a big deal if you grip a knife like I do. I usually put most of my grip up near the front, and if you're holding it that way, then it's not as big of a deal on the back. The second is really, to me, the bigger drawback for this knife, which is this is a nice pocket clip, and it looks nice without being huge, sticking out of the pocket and being really obvious. Functionally, it works well, but it's not reversible. It's sunk right into the design of the knife, as you can see, unlike other knives that I've had where you could flip this, it has to go tip up in your pocket, which I don't particularly care for. I prefer my knives to sit this way in the pocket, and one reason in particular that I prefer it that way, which is a thing that's happened a couple times with this knife, is every once in a while while it sits in my pocket, it'll open ever so slightly, kind of like that. So then if I'm reaching down in my pocket to get my flashlight or anything else that I have further down in there, it's sliced my finger a couple times. So I've learned to be really careful. When I'm reaching my fingers in, I'll always feel for the tip and push it in if I feel it before I reach my hand further down in the pocket. But again, in all the knives I've had over the years with a reversible pocket clip, that's never been an issue. Only with this knife has that been an issue, so I consider that a minor drawback of an otherwise really rugged, really high quality knife. One to be proud of. That the blade does hold an edge really well. I've probably only sharpened it a half a dozen times since I've had it with continuous use. It holds up a lot better than other knives I've had. Kershaw Skyline I had before was a really nice light knife, but I found that it was hard to keep a nice sharp edge on it. I mean, it was functionally sharp, but if you're kind of anal about it like I am and you like to keep the knife really sharp all the time, this does a much better job of knives I've had in the past of holding a nice sharp edge. You can just run it over a stone quick every now and again to touch it up, but it's nice and usable. You're not going to get an issue where you cut open a couple boxes and already you feel like you need to sharpen it, which has been the case with knives like the Skyline that I've had before. It blunts it out a little more. Nice shiny stainless steel finish. I haven't had any issues with corrosion. I mean, I've not really put the knife in positions where that would have been a real concern, but for everyday wear in the pocket and whatnot, I've not noticed any corrosion. And because the inside here goes straight through to the other side, it's pretty easy to just blow out any dust that collects in there to keep the knife clean and to keep the flipping area nice and smooth. Other knives I've had, that's been an issue too, where there's a lot of buildup in here and then it kind of, you have to work it more to get it open and whatnot. So overall, a nice knife. I would recommend it for anyone looking for an all-around everyday carry knife. Like I said about the blade shape, it gives you a lot of variety with what you can do with it, cutting, slicing, piercing. I mean, it's obviously we look at a knife as a tool first, but if you ever are in a self-defense situation, a lot of people have advocated for the effectiveness of a Tonto edge as well for piercing. I mean, so there's that for what that's worth. And I think that's about all I have to say about the knife for the time being. So thanks for watching. And if you want to see more reviews for knives, flashlights, and other gadgets, hit the subscribe button, and please hit like if you liked this video. And share with knife enthusiast friends of yours if you think they would find this useful. See you guys in the next review.